I find that I oftentimes think about how maintaining motivation and discipline to do things that are tough is hard to do. Now, that might sound like a no-brainer, like, obviously, Chase, like, this is super simple. You're telling me stuff I already know. And it's true, right? Staying focused is a tough thing. It's hard. It requires discipline. It requires motivation. And a lot of influencers that I see on the web, they like to come off as though the discipline and the hard work is something that is easy for them. And it's something that requires no effort or, I don't think that's the right thing to do, because even though there are some of us who are more motivated than others, I'm readily willing and able to admit that there are times in which all of us don't feel like doing things that require discipline and motivation, right? There are times we just want to do the thing that's easy. We want to go down the path of least resistance and not have to work super hard. And sometimes we feel like we need a break. Sometimes we might even feel burnt out from something. And if we don't pay attention to that burnout for a long enough time, that can cause us to really resent what it is we once loved doing. With all that being said, though, and just keeping it real with y'all, I would offer that the alternative is worse, actually. So what does the alternative mean in this case? Well, the alternative would be not choosing to do things that require discipline and require sometimes motivation to do, and to ignore doing the hard things. I think that's a worse choice than choosing to feel pain and do the hard thing anyway. And it's tricky, and I think it gets a lot of us in life, and it causes a ton of regret later down the line. And in the short term, doing things that are easy gives us a short-term dopamine hit or a reward, or the thing that is easier to do in the shorter term might feel good now, but it's very sneaky. It's like a thief. It's elusive, because each time, each day that we ignore doing the things that might get us forward or get us closer to meeting certain aspirations or goals for ourselves, the less likely it is for us to achieve those, simply because we only have a finite amount of time. And the more that we ignore those things, it's twofold, right? We run lower on time just every day that we live. Not to sound all morbid, but it's just the truth. And there's only a certain amount of days that we can go after the goals that we have and the dreams that we have for ourselves. But notice how there's another part of that too, where once we get comfortable just ignoring doing the hard things, we get used to it. It becomes easier to not do the things than it is to do them. And the reality is it will always be easier to not do them than to do them, because discipline is not the path of least resistance. But it gets even harder to do the hard things when you just get so used to tuning them out. So we run lower on time, and we run lower on the drive to do those things with our already existing limited time. So I'm not saying these things to try to scare you or guilt trip you into choosing discipline over the alternative. But it's more of just pointing out the reality that so many of us like to ignore and just don't like to think about. We all know it deep down, but we don't like to admit it. We always think in terms of, when we don't do the things that we set out to do today, I'll just push it off to tomorrow. But after you start getting in the habit of doing that, nobody stops and asks themselves, not like, oh, whoa, the thing that I said I was going to do 100 days ago that I've said tomorrow 100 times up until I've gotten to today, presently, I need to stop doing that, because if I keep doing that, then I'm going to keep doing that forever. And that's really what I'm getting at with the whole regret over the pain of regret over the pain of discipline. And that's what it comes down to. And that's what a lot of people find out later in their lives. When they're running lower on their time, they're running lower on their energy. Their energy reserves aren't what they once used to be. And some of the discontent and resentment that you find yourself feeling for not achieving your goals makes you even less likely to want to pursue those goals. Or maybe you do feel more likely to pursue those goals, but you have so much less time and resources and availability that maybe you run out of time to scale your idea and your goal to what it is that you truly wanted it to be all this time before. Wow, just stop and think about that. That's powerful stuff, and it's painful as well. It's not fun. This video is really not fun. It's not. It's gonna cause some of you who are watching it to feel anger, upset. Maybe you've tuned away from this video already because you don't like to think about it. It's an uncomfortable feeling. And I get it, man, because I feel it. And there's a lot of times that I want to stop the track that I'm going on because it's tough and it's hard. It's not the easiest path of least resistance direction to go in. It's the uphill climb, and people get tired of doing uphill climbs. Everybody does. That's the point. So instead of quitting the uphill climb, we can rest. We can choose to rest for a little bit, but let's not rest too long because then our legs will get tired. We won't be able to continue on, or we'll just run out of time. If this is an analogy of climbing a mountain, we might run out of oxygen if we rest too long at the base camp when we've already climbed part of the mountain. We might run out of oxygen, we might run out of food, we might run out of supplies. The same as with time and energy. So once you find yourself getting into a rhythm as well, where you find as though you've created some momentum for yourself to do things that are hard to do, keep that momentum going, because anyone who's lived long enough and has felt that momentum and then has stopped realizes that once the momentum stops, or the longer that you give yourself rest past a certain point after you're fully rested, then that can just be that much harder to start up. Perfect example that we've all felt is coming off of a summer break where we didn't keep our minds very active. Going into that next academic year. It's tough to get started back in August or September or whenever we start school back up when we haven't been keeping our minds very stimulated from, let's say we get May or June off and then we just take some time off, we take some rest off, and we don't keep our minds active during that summer break. Well, when you start up school again, you just feel as though, man, I haven't done this, I haven't used my brain in an intense way for a couple months, and it blows. It's not fun. So bringing this back full circle, I've went on several side tangents here. This is unscripted, so I just figured I'm going to just share how I feel. Point being, purpose of this video is that being disciplined is tough. It's not easy. It's hard. It requires effort and sacrifice and saying no to things that are on that path of least resistance and are easier to do. But I can guarantee you that doing the things now is going to instill a sense of pride and accomplishment in you, and you're going to accomplish your goals, or at least get so much closer, right? If you shoot for the stars, at least you're going to land on the moon. But then if you don't do anything, if you choose to just rest every day and not do things that are hard, that's going to hurt later down the line. You can't go back. We all know that. You don't get back time. So the best thing besides starting years ago is to start today and to keep that commitment to yourself through thick and thin, through tough and easy. Hope this video spoke to you. Let me know if it gave you any sort of value, and I look forward to talking to you guys in the next one. See ya.